Hey, you found us.
This is the Spiritual, Not Religious podcast with your hosts, Shawn.
And Shaun.
Enjoy.
Okay, hey, welcome to our very first episode of what is hopefully going to be a long series of episodes about being spiritual but not religious.
Yeah, I have a feeling people are going to listen to Shawn and be like, yeah, that's nice. That's cute. Anyway.
No, I thought you said that we're nice and we're cute, but you're talking about the episode.
Oh, is that what I said?
Oh,
Sorry,
maybe that's what you meant to say.
Yeah. Dang, autocorrect.
It happens a lot.
Yeah.
It really does.
So,
These funky little podcasts.
dude, who would have thought that we'd finally be here? Like, we just shared this little moment right before we started. And we were like, we're here. We're doing this, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's
we almost
happening.
needed to celebrate. And I guess just doing the podcast is its own way of celebrating.
Oh, 100%.
So we've been
100%.
talking about this, for a year, a little over a year, wanting to create this podcast specifically for young adults. And that is 18 to 30 somethings,
Yes.
apparently. But really, it's for anyone, right?
Absolutely. Well, with both of our backgrounds, especially yours coming from a youth ministry background, we talked about this, and the idea was that a lot of younger people struggle with this idea of spirituality versus religion, right? Instead of the two kind of coinciding and coexisting with one another. It's almost like these two things have drifted apart in the past couple of years.
Right.
But it's important to also remember that, not only young people are the people that are asking questions like this or having ideas like this. I mean, this could be a conversation that people of all ages are having,
So if you're listening to this podcast and you're saying to yourself, yeah, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious, this is your place. This is your space, your place. And we are excited that you're joining us because we want to talk about what it means to be spiritual and not religious. But then also maybe we can look at the other side of that too. What's going on with religion? What's going on with the church? And why are so many young adults saying, you know what? I don't need to be part of a church community. I don't need to be part of a religious construct that has clearly failed in many ways.
Right.
But I can be spiritual and I can find myself close to God in these other ways.
Yes.
And so that's really, the conversations that we want to have with everyone.
Absolutely. And, also one of the main reasons why I feel like we wanted to start this project was because you and I both shared concerns that maybe now more than ever, younger people or just people in general don't feel comfortable asking certain questions. They don't feel safe asking the hard questions. Hey, why did this happen to my family? Hey, why does God allow this to happen? Stuff like that. And I think the idea that we both shared is we want to just have a space where we can sit down and use our shared experiences and just kind of talk about stuff, talk about hard stuff, talk about weird stuff. Just how does our faith intertwine through everyday life, right?
Exactly. And let's talk about too the church and there's been a lot of shortcomings, failings, but there's also been some pretty cool stuff too, and I want to get into those conversations. And if you're listening to this podcast with us, and the church has hurt you in some way, gosh, I just want to say I'm sorry. And hopefully through these conversations and your responses to us, and we'll tell you how to do that, we can kind of work through some of these things. But before we get into some of that, let's introduce ourselves, Shaun, because this is our very first podcast.
Yeah, these people need to know who is talking to them.
Right? I mean,
who they're listening to. Just two random guys.
Totally. Met yesterday.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
I think we should just withhold all of our information and just let it be a mystery, Like,
just parse it out in each episode.
Yeah.
Leave a little Easter
Shawn and
egg.
Shaun? Yeah. Yeah. And then in real life, if people ever, our fans come and meet us, it's like, oh, which one is Shawn?
It's not even our real name.
Yeah, right.
It's Chuck and Dave. Oh my gosh, I love it. Yeah. So, Shawn, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was going to say age before beauty, but I'll gladly go ahead and
Whippersnapper.
lead us along here. So, yeah, my name is Shawn, as you already know. I'm 24. I grew up in the United Methodist Church under yours truly, Mr. Shawn himself, sitting right across from me. So I grew up in Shawn's youth group. Shawn was a youth minister for a good number of years, and I grew up in his program. But yeah, so I'm 24 now. I work full time for a brewing company here in town. I do their social media and their marketing, and it's cool. I get to draw pictures all day, which is it's whatever. I guess it's a cool job or whatever.
I think our friends out there who are in graphic design would probably rather you say that.
Yeah. I mean, it's
graphic design artist.
Yeah, thank you.
Sounds like you're in preschool, sit around drawing pictures.
I mean, we graphic designers really have this kind of this pretentious.
It's more respectable.
No, yeah, I think
I take
so.
you more seriously now.
Thank you. See that was my plan. But yeah, man, just living life, loving life. I've been a Christian now since, it's funny. That's talking about my faith. I became a Christian at 13, and it was the stereotypical, went to a youth conference and I was like, oh man, Jesus is awesome. But if I'm being completely honest, I really, it's like
lights.
It was just the emotional movement, I was like, oh, dude, this is my jam right here.
That's all right.
If I'm being honest though, man, I really didn't, I didn't really explore my faith any deeper than that up until I was around 18. And I feel like that's when I really got serious about God. And for me, it was this realization that Christianity and your faith in general is so much deeper than the surface level, stuff that you see in the movies or that you see, at Sunday service sometimes. For me, it was like, oh wow, this is like a supernatural, spiritual experience. Like things that don't normally happen in the world can happen through Christ. I'm a big believer in, that healing can still happen, that miracles can still happen. And that is what got me intrigued. I was like, I want to see this happen. I want to see God working. Not like in oh, my life is so great now, thank you for praying for me. And it's like, no. I want to see miracles happen. And that was kind of what helped me dive deeper into Scripture. That's what helped me dive deeper into, okay, what do I truly believe, right? What are my core beliefs here? So throughout, the ages of 18 and 19, I hit what I call the peak of the roller coaster, right? So life is a roller coaster, imagine, and you go through your highs and you go through your lows. And at this point in my life, I was at the top. I'm like, man, I feel so close to God. I got this all figured out. But as roller coasters do, they have drops. And throughout, the years, it's been a journey. There's hard parts and there's great parts about having a relationship with Christ. But it's been eye-opening the past couple years because this black and white filter that I feel like I had been looking at life through for so long was kind of lifted. And this is where you and I feel like became a lot closer because you and I would have these conversations of, well, sometimes it's not black and white. Life is not simple,
Right.
So yeah, man, just loving life, and here we are. So.
And interesting, you were using roller coasters because you hate roller coasters. That's very important for people to know because some people are like, "What are you talking about? The drop is the best part of a roller coaster."
I don't understand the appeal. Like you people who, like you. You people who love roller coasters, like there's something mentally wrong with you.
That is for sure. I'm not going to debate you on that, but roller coasters are amazing. And we'll need to get you on more of them. But that's another podcast.
Yeah. Okay, good luck with that, buddy.
No, that's good. It's helpful, I think, for our listeners to get our backgrounds and kind of where we're coming from. And again, we don't have all the answers. In fact, we're also on a journey still. But I think it's helpful to kind of get some perspective on where we're coming from and why doing a podcast like this is so important. Because we want people to feel like, hey, I'm not the only one going through this, or I'm not the only one saying this, or I'd really like to hear what other people have to say about this. I am a Gen Xer, and so I was born in 1973 and went through the 80s and the 90s for some of my pivotal upbringing.
So you lived through Stranger Things.
It was like watching myself on TV, which I would have looked great on TV. They should have chose me because I actually did those things.
You know, you and
Minus
Mike,
the
you and Mike kind of have this like resemblance. I don't know. It's kind of.
Oh, me and Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly who I look like. Not at all. But yeah, it's a lot of. It's not a lot of anything. It's just kind of crazy that I'm in this place in my life. You're in that place in your life, and being able to share our experiences, I think, is going to be really rich for this podcast. Absolutely.
We're coming from two completely separate walks of life, and we have two completely different points of view in a lot of ways, I feel like.
Right. And coming from a time where the church in the 70s and 80s was a very integral part of American society. And, you know, a lot of folks went to church on Sunday, and I was one of them. Parents took me to church, and that's all I knew, and I just figured everyone else did too. And for me, church easily became a place to do the right things, say the right things. It was a very black and white world. Like, you know, you needed to be a good person, and you needed to not sin. And if you did, then there are consequences, and you were a bad person. And so the church really did a number on me, both positively and negatively. And we can kind of get into that, but it's just helpful to know that I've always been a part of the church, always been, you know, seeking God. And I had a very similar experience to you, a conversion experience at 12, where the pastor, you know, each week had given a call to come and respond to the music and to the sermon.
It's always the music that gets you.
It is. And so I don't even remember what was playing, but it moved me enough to get me up there to the altar, and they prayed over me, and I was a Christian.
Bam.
Yeah, just like that. And got baptized, but for the rest of my life, it was a very important aspect of growing up, going to church, being in youth ministry, going to a Christian college, and trying to make a difference in the world. All the while believing that I needed to make sure that I was maintaining my Christian status. So there's that, and some other fun things. Gosh.
Well, tell them a little bit about like your background in what you did for so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I got a degree in counseling psychology. I thought I was going to be a therapist. Ended up being a youth director, which did not see that happening, despite the fact that everything in my life had led me to that point. Being in youth ministry, being an intern in youth ministry, just enjoying being around young adults, teenagers, and their energy and their inquisitiveness, and just their silliness.
God said, being a therapist is too easy for you, Shawn.
Yeah. We need to do something a little harder. That pays a lot less. So, yeah, youth ministry, I got into that, absolutely loved it. And watching these young lives encounter God in what I was hoping was a fresh and unique way. meant a lot to me and still does to this day. So I did that for 20 years. Of course, that's how you and I met. And it's vital work. And so if you're listening to this and you are a youth worker or you volunteer at your church and you work with the teenagers or young adults, God bless you. Thank you. Keep doing it. Don't stop. Yes, you should be there.
Special breed.
It really is. And there's a lot of times where I do mess it and wish that I was involved. But here I am with you, kind of doing a little bit of it. So
yeah, it's funny that you say that, because as we're sitting here, I'm thinking about all the hard conversations that we had to have with youth and parents over the years. And I'm like, we're gonna kind of jump right back into that by doing this, aren't we?
We are, and at least I hope we are.
Oh, me too. Yeah, I'm excited about it.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah, I think so too.
Let's see.
Yeah, so go into like a little bit more about like your personality. Like what is Shawn like?
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously you're gonna learn that I'm a cool guy. I mean, just let's be honest. But let's see. If you need to know my sign, I'm a Libra. I like things balanced, and so and fair. And I would have been a great diplomat, I think. But instead, I'm doing a podcast.
Are Libras usually incredibly handsome?
I mean, typically, I wasn't going to bring that up, but
okay.
I appreciate that. Let's see what else. On the Enneagram, I'm a 2. So I'm the helper.
Okay.
So it fits me right down to the ground. And I did this recently. There's a thing called 16 personalities. You should check it out, Shawn. I don't know if you've done this yet or not, but
usually people only have one. But
well, there's 16 apparently. I don't know who determined there were 16, but there's 16 out there, at least according to the 16personalities.com site.
Okay.
So I had to go fill it out, right? I needed to determine what was my personality, and if you're into that sort of thing, I'm a campaigner. So if you already were aware of the Enneagram and a 2, it kind of makes sense that I'm a campaigner.
Yep.
With the 16 personalities, that's an ENFP-A. So I'm enthusiastic, I'm creative, I'm a social free spirit who smiles a lot.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. You're making me think about what my Enneagram is.
Yeah, what do you got? What is yours?
So I am a Enneagram 7.
7?
Yep. So the enthusiast. I love to learn. I love to do new things, almost to a fault, because what I find myself often doing is I'll become hyper obsessed with one thing. I got to become the best at that one thing, right? And then as soon as I don't feel like I can learn any more about that topic, on to the next thing, right? So, I mean, you can look around my my little house around here and see all my little, trinkets and stuff. I obviously like to do a lot of different activities, and I feel like that definitely shows through my Enneagram.
Yeah, so we're actually filming and recording. We're not filming; we're just recording, aren't we? From
Maybe
the
one day we'll
Sandifer Studios.
Yeah, I like to call it the Mojo Dojo Casa House.
Oh,
yeah, and when you see Barbie, you'll understand that reference.
I just wish I could speak Spanish.
It would help. It would help. But for those of you who have seen the Barbie movie, I felt very called out by Ken's Mojo Dojo Casa House, because when I got home, I realized, that is where I live. Lots of pictures of horses everywhere.
Yeah, you do have a lot of horses around here.
I do. Yep.
Okay.
So fits me well. And I like the title, so
it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, and that is another indication of who Shawn is. So we both have a lot of similarities, which I think is interesting.
We do.
We found that we both like to wear Adidas shoes.
Yep.
We both like to drive Subarus, which we're not currently driving either one of those.
Nope. See, we both drove Subarus at a point, and then we both got rid of our Subarus for a 4-wheel drive off-road vehicle.
Yeah, so the tires on our vehicles got much larger, which is interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Much larger and much knobbier.
Let's see, what else have we really appreciated?
We both love the outdoors.
Got to be outside, folks. Yep. And really, we'll be talking about that in this podcast of how to connect with God. And I think a lot of folks find their connection with God these days in nature, and being outside. And for me, a connective point with God is through water. Mm. And I've met a lot of folks who say that water is their primary connection with God.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And so, like a waterfall or a river,
the
a lake,
ocean.
The ocean.
Yeah, that's me.
Right?
Yeah.
Just something so, I don't know, cerebral about that. I don't know. It just
you look out over the vastness of the ocean. And you're like, oh, dang.
Yeah.
I'm kind of small.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just always moving. It's always alive.
Right.
It's just this breathing aspect.
Mm.
That's good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, water for me. How about you?
You kind of stole mine because the ocean is, anytime we take a trip to the beach, I always make a point of sitting out by the ocean at night and just listening to the waves. And I don't know, I just feel like it's a really intimate moment with me and God. Because it's just me and him and creation. And, some people would be like, Shawn, you're stupid because the mountains are the best place to be with God. And I think it's just one of those things, the grass is always greener type deal. I grew up here, right? So I grew up around the mountains here.
This is Western North Carolina that we're in.
Right. So we're right in the heart of the Smoky Mountains, basically. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's like, it's mountains. Like, okay, that's cool, whatever. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I'm near the ocean or the beach, I'm like, oh man, Jesus is great, But I don't know, man. It's something about how large the ocean is, and it shows you how insignificant you really are. Yeah, I'd save the ocean for me. Mm-hmm. So, what about you, Florida boy?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, I really believe that no matter where you are, the outdoors can provide an opportunity for you to connect with God, right? And I've been to some states that, you really got to look hard, right? But it's there. And for me, Florida growing up, I don't know that I really saw it so much. I just remember mosquitoes and snakes and alligators and the heat and the traffic and the noise. And it took me leaving the state and coming back to it to realize just how beautiful it is with the springs and the crystal rivers that flow through and the ocean, which I grew an appreciation for. And there's just so much about that state that actually is quite beautiful. So I had a better appreciation for seeing God in that place. But very thankful that I live here in the mountains.
Yeah.
Truly, it's just God's country.
Well,
I crack up when people say that. It's like nowhere else is God's country, but
right.
It's right here.
Hey, this is God's country right here, son.
Yeah, you can't go anywhere else, God. You're right here. This is where you are.
Once you go to Virginia, it's over. Your subscription to Jesus is up.
That's right. That's a small.
I am glad that you're back, man. There was a period where you and I were kind of separated by multiple states, and we made it, but that kind of sucked. Not being able to see you very often, and just having to kind of delegate our conversations to strictly over the phone. So I'm glad that you're back.
Which is interesting as a Gen Xer to hear you say that. Like, isn't that how everyone's connecting? Is through a screen?
Right.
Through texting, through some sort of social media platform.
I'm different than everybody else.
You
obviously.
really are.
I mean,
you really are.
What can I say?
Yeah, and that will be one of our podcasts. I think is just about how we connect, not only with God but with each other, and then how does one translate into the other. And how's that been an issue? Things like that.
Absolutely.
So lots of really great ideas for future podcasts coming up. But what else? What else is important that they need to know about us? You think?
Well, besides the fact that we're both incredibly handsome and
Yeah, you did
charismatic,
mention that.
um,
Mm.
you know, I think we could just keep it short, but talk a little bit about our relationship. You know, how we became buddies. You know, growing up in your youth ministry, you always, for the longest time to me, you were more of just that like authoritative adult figure, right? So it's like, oh, that's Shawn, that's my youth pastor, right? But as I grew up and grew out of high school, you know, I started interning under you,
Mm-hmm.
and then eventually I took your position as the interim youth director
Mm-hmm.
after you decided to phase on out, and I feel like you and I just really became more really close friends in that period of life, and that's where we're at right now. You know.
And I think you also grew to see me just as another person, as another human.
Yeah.
And you do. As a teenager, you start to see the adults in your life in one way, but as you get older, you begin to see them in a different way, and maybe even gain a little more appreciation for, oh, they are just regular old faulty humans after all. And so I think that was good.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I was in your wedding.
You were in my wedding, got remarried to a beautiful woman. Her name is Melissa. What a privilege it is to be with that woman. I got lucky, and I do have two fully adult grown children who are 25 and 24. And so right in that wheelhouse of that age, which is, you know, another interesting, compelling reason for me to do this podcast. Because even just my own conversations with my kids, who are both currently not involved in any kind of church or faith-based community, both, well, at least one of them would say that they're more spiritual and not religious, I would say. And it just has, you know, been an interesting time in my life to have these conversations with my kids who have been brought up in the church and who saw me at work, but have distanced themselves. For their own reasons. And so I think that's going to be an interesting topic to bring up at some point in this podcast as well.
Absolutely. And, you know, that just, that again, shows that, like, we're not anything special, you know? It's like, we're just two guys who are trying to still figure it out ourselves, you know?
Yeah.
And, sure, you were a youth pastor for a couple of years. You know, and I took your place for a little while, but I mean, our experience doing that is so minuscule in the grand scheme of our lives.
Oh, it's so minuscule.
And we're just going along with it, man. We're taking life day by day, and we're taking our faith day by day, and we are still learning so much every day. I learned so much about myself even now. I know that they say that your brain forms at 24, 25? But it's like every day I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't know that I thought that, or I didn't know that I would believe that, or that I would change my mind about this. But here I am. I don't know if you experience that, you know, in your life at all.
As an old man right now?
I wasn't going to say that, but
it's weird. I turned 50 in a couple of months. So it puts some perspective in that. But what I've realized, and it's interesting you brought this up actually, what I'm realizing is we're just standing on the shoulders of so many people who've gone before us. And nothing that we're going to talk about on this podcast, in a future podcast, has not already been discussed, has not already been thought of.
Right.
Which, in a way, I find that very comforting. There are so many theologians. There are so many philosophers. There are so many great thinkers, both for and against this concept of God, that I hope that we can talk about and bring into this episode or into these podcasts. But to go back to your point, yeah, we're just a couple guys that are hoping to be a voice out there in the wilderness for folks who are saying to a lot of other folks, yeah, I'm just spiritual but not religious. If that's you, welcome. And maybe you can walk with us and journey with us for a little bit as we kind of figure out, you know, what it is that we believe and how can we re-engage possibly, maybe, with a church community. Why would we want to do that? Or why would we not? And just kind of grapple with some of those questions and really get your feedback and your stories that we can share on these podcasts as a way of getting your voice heard as well.
Yeah. I think that's a good spot to take a quick little break.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. We'll be right back. Let's. And we're back.
All right.
Take 5.
Doing a podcast is really a whole lot of fun when you got the right people in the room.
It is. Yeah, it's an opportunity for you to say the things that you can't really say, in real life.
Well, there's a lot that we probably shouldn't say on this podcast.
Well, you know how that's going to go.
We're going to get edited. But regardless, we're moving forward. In this part of this podcast, we kind of want to loosen up a little bit. And this will be more of like, I don't know, some fun time we're having.
Yeah.
With more relevant cultural kinds of things that are happening. Maybe there's something in the news that's going to stand out to us, or a trend, or a movie that we just watched, or a song that really has us going. And so we're going to use this opportunity to kind of like share like what we kind of geek out about.
Right.
And we'd also like to hear what you also geek out about. Maybe it's kind of spurs us on to bring it up in the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, we're always looking for new stuff to get into. I mean, we're both pretty big nerds. So
when it comes down to it, I mean, you wouldn't, guess that looking at us.
No, if you saw us out on the street, you'd be like, oh, those guys
got it all together.
Yeah.
They just know so much. But
reality, you have like, movie quality lightsabers hanging up on the wall and Mandalorian helmets.
No, that's you. Definitely you.
I know you're jealous though. It's okay.
I've got more like, 6-shooters and swords.
Oh, dude, did you not see my my saber over there on the bookshelf?
No, I did not.
Yeah. I've got like a little saber and it's crossed with a Native American arrow. It's kind of like shows the duality of like the civilizations during that time.
See, that's deep, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I knew you would. I actually like set it up right before you got here. Like, oh, he's here.
Yeah, you take it down when I leave.
Right. Get down here. Put my lightsabers back up.
That's right, exactly. For your other cool friends. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh my gosh. So, one movie that you absolutely are just nerding out about. And like one movie that defines you, or that you just think is just the best.
For me, my answer will always be Interstellar.
Interstellar.
Yep. Nolan.
All right.
Dude, listen, that movie scared me. Legitimately scared me the first time I watched it.
Different perspective on things, huh?
It did, and I also didn't know what was happening 90% of the time. But once I watched it a second and third time...
I'm not sure Matthew McConaughey knew what was happening.
Yeah, I know, right? He's like, as long as I'm getting paid. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, man, I watched it, a couple times after, and that's where like the depth of, like the physics of that movie are insane. Mm-hmm. Space is scary, dude. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like,
yeah, and we're like trying to get out there. Like,
right.
What is our problem?
Yeah, no thanks. No, I'm good here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, that's always going to be my number one movie, just because it makes you think and it makes you feel emotions. Mm-hmm. I base how good a movie is based off of what does it make you feel. What does it stir something inside of you? And that movie, yeah, it brings a lot of emotions to the surface.
So for me, it would be a toss-up between the first Matrix and Inception.
Another Christopher Nolan movie.
So both of those just taking a whole different perspective and look at what's really real.
Right.
Which messes with you. It really messes with you. But both those were really, really well done. All right, well, what's a movie you geek out on? Like, what's your nerd movie?
Always Star Wars.
Star Wars. You are one of the biggest Star Wars fans I've ever met. Like,
yeah.
Not that you go to Comic-Con or dress up as Leia in Return of the Jedi, but you're a big fan.
Yeah, I was hoping that you wouldn't tell people about that, but
You look so good in it, though. That skimpy outfit.
man, they really need to turn the AC down in those convention centers, though. It gets cold.
Yeah, amen. Well, but when the guys are wearing that outfit, you don't want to see that.
Yeah. No, Star Wars has always been my, like, it's almost like a comfort movie for me, especially Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, like Anakin's downfall. Like, it's just so poetic, and it's so. I always have liked more, like darker movies, if that makes sense. And Revenge of the Sith, that's a sad movie, man. It's like it builds it up from Anakin being this little like slave boy being taken by the Jedi to train, and then he loses his mom, and like then he loses his wife, and then he becomes like the worst villain ever known. I mean, how tragic,
Death sucks.
Oh, but the
And it turns you into
lightsaber
Darth
battle
Vader.
at the end is freaking sweet.
Not bad at all.
Yeah.
Not bad at all.
So forget about all that other like deep stuff,
No, hey, listen, I was in the movies in 1983 watching Return of the Jedi as a kid, and when the Gamorrean guard got eaten at Jabba the Hutt's palace by the Rancor, I ran out of the movie theater. Like, I just whoop, nope, I'm out.
Couldn't handle it.
Scared me to death. Yeah, but don't worry, my mom was there and she comforted me and brought me back in, and the rest of the movie was fantastic. But yeah, loved the Star Wars series, so totally can appreciate that. For me, came a little bit later with Lord of the Rings. Like, big Lord of the Rings. Huge fan of that. And
see, that's where you and I differ a little bit,
I thought Peter Jackson did a good job with the. Considering all things, I mean, the movie should have been a lot longer because the books were like crazy dense. And
Yeah.
I thought he did a good job.
I appreciate Lord of the Rings and I like the story, but it's just not something that I'm like.
And now there's no lightsabers in there.
Exactly. See, if Legolas had a bow that shot lasers, I'm in. So let me know when they.
But he had a quiver that never seemed to empty of, arrows.
Yeah,
That's
but see,
just cool.
that's just that you can chalk that up to just poor, writing.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they magically appeared in there. I don't know. That was.
It's not real.
But what is real, Sean?
Lightsabers.
There we go. In fact, they really are now these days, aren't they? Like,
Yeah, there's
one,
that YouTube channel. Have you seen that? Those guys that made the legitimate lightsaber.
Yeah.
I'll take 3. Thank you.
Careful where you're swinging that thing.
Right.
So, there you go. All right, so you have a new word for me, and part of the podcast will include this segment. It's teaching Shawn a new cool word, because I'm a Gen Xer and all my cool words don't really work today, or maybe they are starting to come back.
As cool as you are, Shawn, we need to kind of modernize your vocabulary. So I will take that upon myself, and the viewers will also help me. So if you guys have any kind of words that you want Shawn to learn, any kind of new lingo, any slang,
what are the cool kids saying these days?
Yeah. So go ahead and send those in.
I'm hip. I'm cool.
Yeah. All right, here's your applesauce, buddy. Bingo's at 6.
Get that movie reference and email it in. We'll announce your name online.
Oh, dude, that would be a fun idea. We could do a movie quote, and it's like whoever can guess it.
Yeah, first email in.
Oh man.
Well, that was from Austin Powers, by the way. So I'm just gonna just ruin it for everybody.
It's so long since I've seen that. It's such a good movie, though.
It's okay.
So your word today, Shawnee, is it's lit.
Lit.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So lit meaning it's awesome. Like, this is so cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
So hey, did you go to that party the other night? It was lit.
Lit. So we're not saying, did you go to that party last night? It was so cool. Like, can it just be cool? What happened to cool?
Well, cool is
still
lit.
Cool. Oh, cool is lit.
Yeah.
Lit is the new cool.
Lit is the new cool. But lit is cooler than cool.
Cooler than cool.
Yeah.
All right, like ice cold.
All right.
All right. See, again, going back to my generation, I mean, we own all the good stuff. You guys just sort of put a spin on it, right?
We did. Yeah, we're revising. We're revising it.
Okay, so lit. I got to be able to say this right in the right context.
Yep. So give me like an example. Like
go up to a woman and be like, "Well, your baby is lit." I'm not going to say that, right?
Yeah, that's definitely don't do that.
All right. So like, have you seen the new Oppenheimer movie? It was pretty lit.
Oh,
Can I say
okay.
that? Can I do that?
All right, nice. There we go.
Okay.
All right, yeah. So that's a good way to use that word. Yeah.
Oh, double entendre, because there's like, it was literally
Because the bomb got lit.
lit. It was, okay.
Yeah, that movie was the bomb.
Oh, are we even saying the bomb anymore?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're a cool guy.
Yeah, I try to be. Probably not. Oh man. Well, yeah, we'll make this a weekly thing.
Okay.
And little by little, you will become
I'm feeling smarter already.
more lit.
And that in itself is pretty lit, Shawn. Know what else is lit? Is telling people how to get in touch with us.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys have any questions, comments, if you just want to say hey, please email us. And Shawn, what is that email?
It is ask.us.snr@gmail.com. Yeah, it's pretty simple. Ask.us.snr, which stands for spiritual, not religious, at Gmail.
Nice.
Yeah, and we'd love to hear from you guys.
Absolutely. And one thing that we would love is we would love for your questions to be the topic of our conversations. You know, we're only so smart. So the more questions that you send in, the more topics we can tackle, the better.
Exactly. And we just love to hear how you're doing. Maybe what your testimony is. What has been your experience with the church? What has you feeling great about it? What has you feeling like I'm just never stepping into another church ever again? Let us know. And we want to share these stories because I think it's important for folks to hear what's going on in other people's lives. And so we want to be kind of a catalyst for that for you guys. So please send in your stories and your thoughts, and we will definitely be getting back to you as well. And with that, we're going to wrap things up.
You hear our neighbor leaf blowing?
Oh my gosh. But I thought the studio was soundproof.
Well, I tried hard, but I also sent him a letter in the mail saying if you made any sound, I will literally burn your house down. But obviously he hasn't checked his mail.
All right, and just in case that we go to jail for anything, that we were just kidding.
Yeah, just a joke. Shawnee, this has been awesome.
This has been a lot of fun.
Episode 1, baby.
In the books. But I'm going to close this with a little blessing to our friends who are listening. And we look forward to hearing from you guys soon. But here's our final blessing. May the strength of God sustain you. May the power of God preserve you. May the hands of God protect you. May the way of God direct you. May the love of God go with you this day and forever. Amen.
Amen. All right, we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
See you guys.
All right, peace.
Bye.